Broadcasting live from Jerusalem, IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Israel Sports Dynamics specializes in football consulting, equipment, uniforms, and more. Great brands such as Nike, Russell Athletics, Schutt Sports Products, and many more. Just one call away. With over 30 years coaching experience with university and professional athletes, Terry Hill, owner of ISD, can advise you for all your sports needs. Call 054-581-3248. That's 054-581-3248, or visit our website at www.isdisrael.com. If that's not easy enough, click on the ISD banner on the Israel Sports Radio website and be part of the game.
Live from the A-Maple Farm Studios here in downtown Jerusalem, Israel. It's Louis Live with your host, me. Just me, Yossi G. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Everybody here, it's going to be a great show. It's going to be the, of course, the one and only Yossi G Spectacular. And it's going to today. It's going to be a little bit different because I'm sick and tired of all this Super Bowl talk, the post Super Bowl talk, and kind of everything that goes along with it. And I've had enough of this. I really have. I don't want to hear about it anymore. I can't be bothered. No more Super Bowl. It's over. Wait till next year. Once we have it next year, then we can talk about it. We can deal with it then. But right now, no more. And listen, there's still some spillover from it, so of course we have to talk about just a little bit of, and we'll start off the show with Gisele Bündchen. Now, we all know her as Victoria's Secret supermodel, aka Mrs. Tom Brady, and what she did after her husband's team lost to the New York Football Giants, who are currently going through their victory parade in New York City. What she did was something that wives and girlfriends of professional athletes should never, ever do, and that is be heard by the public condoning and condemning various players, the team that their significant other plays for, and whatnot. Specifically, in this case, what Gisele did, I mean, you can't completely blame her. She was kind of blindsided by a couple of rogue Giants fans outside of Lucas Oil Stadium, or rather in the bowels of Lucas Oil Stadium, and were heckling her about how her husband's team sucks, how her husband performed, how awfully he performed, and the various players on the team as well. Now, what she did was she quickly turned on her husband's team and some of his teammates and put her opinion of how she feels with regards to the end of the game. She put it out there, and she said, quote, "You need to catch the ball when you're supposed to catch the ball." She's also, end quote, she's also caught on video yelling that, quote, "My husband cannot," expletive, "throw the ball and catch the ball at the same time. I can't believe they," as in the Patriots, players, "dropped the ball so many times," end quote. Now, yes, you could feel a little bit sorry for her, and you know who can't really sympathize with being a little bit emotional and trying to defend a significant other. In this case, it was her spouse, when fairly untacked and unprovoked. But except that every single other woman does not agree with Bündchen. They just want her to shut her mouth. You know, when Tony Romo had Jessica Simpson in his corner, guess what? Jessica Simpson learned to shut her mouth. She learned to keep her comments to herself, keep what she determined as being the various resources from her mind to mouth. There was actually ended up being a sieve, a sifter, and she just kept her mouth shut. She just decided, eventually she learned not to say anything. You're much better off not saying anything. There's a saying, the secret to success is keeping your mouth shut. And this is something that Gisele Bündchen would be very wise with doing. If in the future, just keep to your day job. I mean, seriously, what you get this awesome job where you get paid fantastic money to walk down the runway showing off underwear. Yeah, keep to your day job, woman. Everybody still loves to hate you because you're sitting in the comfort of your $20 million or so mansion with a most likely nanny-insulated life, and yet you're still giving out advice, doling out advice to the millions and millions of mothers out there. Woman, just zip it. You're a lot better off and you're a lot better looking when you keep your mouth shut. Now, in the other, of course, the other Super Bowl things, you have to look at, it's just more than just the Super Bowl itself. This game has turned into a larger-than-life spectrum, a larger-than-life extravaganza. The Super Bowl ratings for NBC, this year's Super Bowl, the rematch between the Giants and the Patriots, it was astonishing. You're talking the best ever for an NFL game in the market of Boston, of 81% of households, topping the 78% that there was a couple years ago when the Giants beat the Patriots 17-14 in the Super Bowl. And when you taking on a national level, the game earned a 47.8% rating overnight, Nielsen rating overnight for NBC. It was the third highest overnight rating in Super Bowl history and less than 1% off the highest, which was 47.9. I mean, you're talking percentage points here for the highest Nielsen rating ever. I mean, it had a good chance to beat last year's 111 million viewers and replace it as the most ever watched. But right now, it just came down to being the third most of all time. You look at some of the things that went on in the game, behind the storylines, things leading up to it. It's astounding that it almost firstly the numbers that it did rake in, but you almost are kind of saying to yourself, wow, how did it not get anything more? I mean, the numbers are astounding, don't get me wrong, but how it doesn't get anything higher than that. Granted, the only downside of it was that this game did take place between two East Coast teams, the New Jersey Giants and the whole New England Patriots. And it's not as if it was a California market or a Midwest team, something along those lines, which would garner, or a Texas team, which would garner a lot more interest from the random viewer from that area. But for where it was played, for whom it was played, and of course the near history, the close-knit history that they've had just, a few years ago, they played each other the first time in the Super Bowl. It definitely did bring a lot of good wonder and a lot of good fare to NBC for what they put on as a super show. That is for sure. Now, Eli Manning, essentially what he did in this game, besides for put himself on the pedestal for very solid Canton, Ohio Hall of Fame down the road talk, and he's only about 30 years old. Aside from doing that with this victory, with the second Super Bowl win, this time being in the house that Peyton built in Indianapolis, he took a gamble. You want to break down this play, which I'll do in just a moment. The gamble that he took was, it's something that I think 97 out of 100 players, out of 100 quarterbacks, in this case, it would be probably 29 or 30 out of the 32 quarterbacks would never attempt this. Maybe Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers, because they are some of the most accurate passers that have ever graced the football field. What Eli Manning did was high drama bar none. I mean, the scintillating play that he served up, a pass that was needle threaded right between cornerback rookie Sterling Moore and safety Patrick Chung and just landed in the hands of wideout Super Mario Manningham. Absolutely marvelous at the audacity that Eli Manning had with which to attempt such a throw down the sideline. I mean, you're looking at the way this happened, kind of leaning out of bounds as he caught it, but yet manages to get both feet in bounds before he hits the chalk markers. Kind of brings back to a catch that rivals this one, again in this game, with David Tyrese on the helmet Velcro type catch, which he performed a few years ago. And the audacity that Eli Manning had for which to take this gamble down the stretch in the last quarter of play foiled Tom Brady and the Patriots yet again. And it just speaks volumes for this quarterback, speaks volumes for Eli Manning, for what he's done as a player, how he's grown from where he came from to what shadow he's been playing under his entire career. First it was in college because he was, of course, being compared to Peyton. And then it was in the NFL because not only is he playing in the shadow of Peyton, but he also forced his hand when being drafted by the San Diego Chargers to be traded to the New York Giants. So all in all, things are paying off because more often than not, these are the types of players who do these sort of things end up becoming busts or could have been better and usually do not end up going to their potential, performing to their potential. So kudos to Eli Manning and to the New York Giants coaching staff for doing for allowing Eli Manning the time and giving him and allowing themselves the patience to give Eli Manning that time. And, of course, surrounding him with a fairly deep cast of players for when one goes down, there is yet another to go up. When I return after these short commercial breaks, you'll hear me talk a little bit, slightly more about the NFL, and then we're going to change up the topics because I've had enough of football talk for one day. You're listening to Louis Live, the SEG Spectacular, here on IsraelSportsRadio.com.
You're tuned in to the only all-sports talk network in the Middle East, IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Hey folks, Kagan here. As you know, I'm always staying on top of the fitness world, keeping up with current trends. One form of exercise that's been around for ages and is currently being rediscovered is suspension bodyweight training. So if you're looking for a way to get in shape, improve your health, and train your body to move in new ways, then the X1 by Israel Gym Systems is for you. Find out more on our website at www.israelgym.com or look for our page on Facebook, Israel Gym Systems X1. Israel Gym X1, Higia Hazman.
You're already using a credit card every day. Why not feel good every time you make a purchase? When using the HAS Advantage Support Israel Visa card, a percentage of each purchase you make will be donated to your choice of 24 Israeli-based charities, while still earning a reward point for every dollar spent. But wait, these rewards are even better than the standard rewards you get, especially when using them towards Israel travel, with the best conversion rate on El Al's Matmeed Frequent Flyer program. Earn double points at some of your favorite supermarkets and restaurants in the U.S., as well as discounts all over Israel. If you love traveling and supporting Israel, HAS Advantage is the card for you. Just give us a call toll-free at 1-866-6-ISRAEL. Sign up right now with the code ISR10 to earn 2,500 bonus points. That's 1-866-647-7235. HAS Advantage. Earn rewards. Support Israel. Offer valid for U.S. citizens only. Terms and conditions do apply. When dialing from within Israel, please dial 1-800-200-818.
Israel Sports Dynamics specializes in football consulting, equipment, uniforms, and more. Great brands such as Nike, Russell Athletics, Schutt Sports Products, and many more. Just one call away. With over 30 years coaching experience with university and professional athletes, Terry Hill, owner of ISD, can advise you For all your sports needs, call 054-581-3248. That's 054-581-3248, or visit our website at www.isdisrael.com. If that's not easy enough, click on the ISD banner on the Israel Sports Radio website and be part of the game.
Are you tired of paying for expensive gym memberships that you don't use? Are you frustrated by not seeing results? It's time for the X1. Israel Gym Systems is proud to launch the X1 suspension and bodyweight training system. Lose weight, build muscle, improve balance, coordination, and flexibility. With your purchase of the X1, you'll receive a free membership to IsraelGym.com and access to our archives of videos and exercise plans. Sign up today at www.israelgym.com and get ready for the new you. Israel Gym X1. Higia Hazman.
Broadcasting live from Israel.
IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Back here on Louis Live on the SCG Spectacular, I want to talk a little bit about just we're moving on from the Super Bowl and kind of as a segue into next year, or rather into the off season, into real training camp, unlike this past year, where it was a very condensed version. Let's talk a little bit about the different teams and early projections for these teams and where they rank and whatnot. Because, we had favorites last year. We have favorites every year. The Giants are currently the NFL champions, just like that. Let's go ahead and maybe the Giants could make the playoffs. Maybe the Giants won't make the playoffs. Last night, Ari and I went ahead and spoke about the various teams who we think will make the postseason and who won't. And now I figure let's just go through the teams itself. You may be surprised with some of the teams that I chose here, where they're going to finish and whatnot. But hey, let's do it. Let's start off with from bottom to top. I have the Indianapolis Colts finishing dead last. Look, yes, they did not have Peyton Manning this past year, and thereby they managed just 15 points or so per game on offense, and they gave up a little bit over 26 points game on defense. They must improve these two totals before we can even begin to think about winning more games than they'll lose. The Polians are gone. Both Bill and Jim and Bill Polian are gone. Jim Caldwell's gone. Peyton Manning's most probably going to be gone. Look, all the media talk leading up to Super Bowl Sunday was all about Peyton. Jim Irsay. What is going on between the two of them? And out of a big number of free agents who saw their contracts expiring after this past season on the Colts, a number of them are probably going to be gone also. Maybe the Colts will get some back, but they could also opt not to come back. The only consistency on the Colts seems to just be their owner tweeting. Jim Irsay does a good job with that, but tweeting will not get you into the playoffs and certainly will not buy you wins. Yes, they have a new head coach in Chuck Pagano, but he's still going to have to break his brand of football into his players. It's going to take time. It's a new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator. A significant amount of change usually ends up coming with a lot of growing pains. And the Colts and the Colts fans will be able to either cheer for Andrew Luck or Robert Griffin III, RG3, but yes, that is true. However, it takes time before players and on a team become a cohesive unit. It does take time, but I believe next season is going to be an absolute ugly, disastrous affair. Again, 2 years in a row that the Colts will not make the playoffs, something that has not happened since the mid-'90s. Well, I guess that's what happens in Indianapolis when you're spoiled. But moving on, Tampa Bay has got a lot of issues. A lot of issues. I don't even know where to begin. They need to get physical on both sides of the ball. They, especially with the running game, converting on more third downs would also kind of help out with the offense and with the defense, both getting more third downs, first downs, converting more third downs, and also stopping those on defense. They are awful in the rush offense, overall defense. I mean, this is a team that won a Super Bowl in the last decade on defense alone. And it's just awful. And Raheem Morris, their coach, former coach, was out. Greg Schiano, the new head coach in Tampa Bay at the moment. And look, he has a big job ahead of him. He's got to figure out how to motivate these Buccaneers and get them to play for a full 60 minutes. Once that happens, then they will start winning. But Schiano has definitely got his work cut out for them. The Cleveland Browns, Cleveland Browns, they are slowly improving on both sides of the ball regarding the running attack. And it's going to be a major priority for the Browns next season in 2012 because without that, they cannot allow the team. The team is not built well enough to be a single-dimension team. They must be able to throw as well as pass, and rather as well as rush the football. And that they hired Brad Childress as their offensive coordinator only kind of gives me a sense of more of the same. It doesn't throw... Brad Childress' name does not throw at me the wow factor. It all brings back bad memories of Brett Favre when he was in Minnesota with the Vikings. So, hey, look, there was a lack of performance from Peyton Hillis last year, but, hey, look, they'll be back, and we'll see what happens with them. But I don't have them winning more than 4 or 5 games. I think 5 games is even a stretch. Moving on, Minnesota Vikings take out Adrian Peterson, and they're probably going to win 1 game. Stick Adrian Peterson in there, they might win 4. Last year they went 1-7 at home, and for Vikings fans, that's a tough pill to swallow. You add in all the issues with the stadiums, with the local and state politician, and you have ingredients for another, crapshoot of a year. The Vikings will get better. Don't worry, Minnesota fans. Your team will get better eventually, but you're going to need to take some baby steps before they can start running full speed ahead again. Yes, you have a new defensive coordinator, Alan Williams, and he's going to have to improve the defense, which was ranked number 21 overall last year. Will he do that? It remains to be seen. Of course, the Vikings have to do a much better job of protecting Christian Ponder. He's proven that he could do a decent job, especially as a rookie. He surprised a lot of people. You add some weapons around him so he can throw to, and Leslie Frazier and his staff will get an up-close look at what can be for next season, just so long as they can find some manners in some ways to get this team better. I mean, then you have the Jacksonville Jaguars, and, David Gerard and Jack Del Rio are gone, and they have a new coach, and they're going to have most likely Blaine Gabbert as their quarterback come 2012. Gabbert suffers from the tendency to run, also known as happy feet. He gets nervous when the pressure starts to close in on him and then just takes off. And it won't surprise me if the team signs a veteran quarterback to be ready to step in if Gabbert shows no outward signs of growth in his second season in the NFL. It won't surprise me also if they just sign a veteran quarterback to help Gabbert get better, not to just run, but to also throw. He's got a very good arm, and he can do it just so long as he's given ample pieces around him to help him and assist him in that endeavor. Moving up, the Washington Redskins were really not that good, except when they played the New York Giants. So they have a middle-of-the-pack offense and a little bit better than middle-of-the-pack defense, but for some reason they were just not able to put it all together in the big moments. They had a good game against New England when they won, which they eventually lost, but this team can be a lot better than their records show. I mean, Look at Mike Shanahan for your quarterback, for your coach. He's not a bad coach. He usually knows what he's doing. The biggest question for the Redskins is who is going to be the quarterback. Is it going to be Rex Grossman? Is it going to be John Beck? Will they trade up and try to draft Robert Griffin III? Or will they sign a guy like Peyton Manning, who's maybe available through free agency, or Matt Flynn, who will be available? Or maybe they may try to lure Jason Campbell back, who's coming off of a shoulder injury out in Oakland, and we saw how good he was before with his Oakland Raiders before Campbell went down. Who knows? Anything is possible, but most likely they're going to finish last in the NFC East with a 5-11 record. Now, just to kind of sum up the rest, the middle of the pack, kind of, and then take a commercial break. You have the Broncos in finishing dead last because really, how good is Tim Tebow? How good will he actually be? How much is John Elway going to allow Tim Tebow to become a better quarterback remains to be seen. The St. Louis Rams, the only good thing that they have is a new coach and Jeff Fisher. The problem with Fisher's team now is he doesn't have that many pieces for which to make this an instantly better team. Yes, they have the number 2 overall draft pick, but it wouldn't surprise me if they end up trading down to secure more high draft picks in the future. It would not shock me if that happens, and that's something that Jeff Fisher has done in the past. And the Rams most likely will be going through growing pains this year again because there are too many holes to plug with one draft that the Rams need to plug. And most likely, if they get 5 wins, will be considered pretty good. The Arizona Cardinals, they have to figure out a way to get Kevin Kolb out. I mean, seriously, this kid is munching way too much money for this team in order for them to sign somebody else. $65 million that the Cards paid to get him for. Who knows what's going to happen? Who are they going to get? They also have to beef up their O-line and get some better pass blockers and take better care of the football overall. There's only so much Larry Fitzgerald can do by himself. I mean, he needs somebody to throw him the ball. He could catch it, but he needs to get somebody for which can toss him the football. It most likely going to get 7 or 8 wins because a couple of losses last year for the Cardinals came down to the last minute, last possession, and they ended up losing by 3 or 4 points. So it won't shock me if a few of those kind of flip the other way and give the Cardinals the advantage there. Miami Dolphins, I'm not even going to bother going there. Seattle Seahawks, it's all about the weather, and there's nobody really there that can play so well. Kansas City Chiefs have a lot of problems, but they beat the undefeated Green Bay Packers this past. At that point, they were the undefeated Green Bay Packers. So there is hope in KC. Most likely now with Romeo Crennel taking the reins, and he's going to try to rally his troops. He got a new offensive coordinator, and who's going to try to elevate the offense and score more points and, of course, get more touchdowns. If you score more points than the other team, you know what happens. You win the ball game. Carolina Panthers will only get better with Cam Newton. Every single time he takes a snap, he learns. He's learning from what the previous play taught him, whether it's good, for the bad, or for the ugly. And they're just going to continue to get better, but it's going to take some more time, a couple more years, and he and Steve Smith are still going to prove to be a big threat, and it won't shock me if they get 8 wins and give a lot of team fits because they are very difficult to prepare to play against. The Tennessee Titans, they have free agent quarterback Matt Hasselbeck, and they kind of can let him compete with Jake Locker and see who's the starter is going to be in 2012. It's a healthy situation and a good problem to have if both quarterbacks can play, but it's going to be funny to see how Mike Munchak is going to do in his second year as head coach to keep the Titans competitive. The overall projection from the offense and defense has to go up has to increase if they expect to reach the playoffs. Last year, the offense scored about 20 points, but defense gave up about 19 points. It's cutting way too close for comfort if you have too many close games. And you often, what ends up being, it takes one mistake to lose such a game. And unfortunately, more so than not, will a team end up losing that game, especially if they play very much 500 football for the entire season. Don't expect them to finish better than 8 wins, 8-8 team. When I return, we'll cap off the rest of the NFL teams, and you're listening to Louis Live, the SCG edition, only on IsraelSportsRadio.com.
You're tuned in to the only all-sports talk network in the Middle East, IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Hey folks, Kagan here. As you know, I'm always staying on top of the fitness world, keeping up with current trends. One form of exercise that's been around for ages and is currently being rediscovered is suspension bodyweight training. So if you're looking for a way to get in shape, improve your health, and train your body to move in new ways, then the X1 by Israel Gym Systems is for you. Find out more on our website at www.israelgym.com or look for our page on Facebook, Israel Gym Systems X1. Israel Gym X1. Higia Hazman.
You're already using a credit card every day. Why not feel good every time you make a purchase? When using the HAS Advantage Support Israel Visa card, a percentage of each purchase you make will be donated to your choice of 24 Israeli-based charities, while still earning a reward point for every dollar spent. But wait, these rewards are even better than the standard rewards you get, especially when using them towards Israel travel, with the best conversion rate on El Al's Matmeed frequent flyer program. Earn double points at some of your favorite supermarkets and restaurants in the U.S., as well as discounts all over Israel. If you love traveling and supporting Israel, HAS Advantage is the card for you. Just give us a call toll-free at 1-866-6-ISRAEL. Sign up right now with the code ISR10 to earn 2,500 bonus points. That's 1-866-647-7235. HAS Advantage. Earn rewards. Support Israel. Offer valid for U.S. citizens only. Terms and conditions do apply. When dialing from within Israel, please dial 1-800-200-818.
Israel Sports Dynamics specializes in football consulting, equipment, uniforms, and more. Great brands such as Nike, Russell Athletics, Shutt Sports Products, and many more. Just one call away. With over 30 years coaching experience with university and professional athletes, Harry Hill, owner of ISD, can advise you for all your sports needs. Call 054-581-3248. That's 054-581-3248, or visit our website at www.isdisrael.com. If that's not easy enough, click on the ISD banner on the Israel Sports Radio website and be part of the game.
Are you tired of paying for expensive gym memberships that you don't use? Are you frustrated by not seeing results? It's time for the X1. Israel Gym Systems is proud to launch the X1 Suspension and Bodyweight Training System. Lose weight, build muscle, improve balance, coordination, and flexibility. With your purchase of the X1, you'll receive a free membership to IsraelGym.com and access to our archives of videos and exercise plans. Sign up today at www.IsraelGym.com and get ready for the new you. Israel Gym X1. Higia Hazman.
Broadcasting live from Israel.
IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Back here on Louis Live on the SCG edition, the SCG Spectacular. We're going down the list of worst to first NFL teams, the projection for 2012, and we're going to kick this portion of the show off with the New York Jets coming in at number 18. They let offensive coordinator Brian Schottenheimer leave. They fired him, but the question remains, the big question for the Jets is how much longer before Mark Sanchez follows him out the door, and of course, how about Rex Ryan? Will he be following suit as well? The Jets had to be one of the most dysfunctional teams down the stretch in 2011. Yes, you have some other teams that were pretty bad, but the Jets definitely were up there, if not the worst, and definitely in the top three. Their problems that were going on in the locker room, and their coach was oblivious to it all, or at least that's what he claims. That's great. There's nothing like your head coach being in tune with what's going on, with the pulse of your team. That's awesome stuff. I really don't know what to expect from the Jets because they're a really quirky type team, and something tells me that they may get worse before they get better. And of all the promises and predictions from Rex Ryan, he would probably do well to, at the most, say that every season we come into the game, we approach the season as a season and an opportunity to attempt at winning the Super Bowl. And not make any bold prediction that we're going to win the Super Bowl. And that's what's going to happen. Because it's just a whole bunch of hot air that we've known from now. I don't know who's going to be coming back, but I can tell you that the Damian Tomlinson and Plaxico Burress both appear headed out the door. The Jets hired Tony Sparano to try to turn the Jets' the offense into more of a ground and pound type of play with what they've had in the past. The defense should still be good. The offense has way too many question marks for me to rank them better than middle of the pack. I give them 8-8 and missing the playoffs next season. After that, we have the Chicago Bears were cruising until they lost Jay Cutler and Matt Forte. They immediately went into a 5-game losing streak. I thought Caleb Haney would be able to provide some sort of semblance of a quarterback, but he, of course, proved me wrong. He's not ready for prime time. So the Bears have to go back to the drawing board and overhaul their offense in order to be able to withstand injuries to key players and fall apart as a result. The average score in Chicago last year was 22 points for the offense to be had for the Bears and 21.3 points allowed by the defense. It's we've had this issue with some of the other teams. It's too thin of a margin, most notably as well for the Tennessee Titans, too thin of a margin of victory to allow for the team to stay still as they are. You have the Bears, of course, are going to sign Matt Forte to have, if they want to have any realistic shot at winning, and most preferably they take care of him with a multi-year contract as opposed to slapping a franchise tag on him because they've messed around with Forte for long enough, and if they want him to stick around later on, they better treat him right. Most likely his team is going to end up being a 500 team because based on who the Bears have drafted and who they've had as key free agent pickups over the past years, most likely it's not going to bode that well for the Bears, and they're going to finish probably at 7-9. Cincinnati Bengals, the one fabulous thing about this team is that Andy Dalton is young. He and A.J. Green are both young, and the dynamic duo that of pass and receiving that they had last year, it's going to be contingent on this team to make sure that both these players do not have sophomore slumps. And for both of them also to continue to prove that they belong. It's going to be interesting to see if and how the Bengals are going to cash in with their draft chips, the draft pieces that they received from Oakland for the Carson Palmer trade, so that they could add some new talent at the draft. On the free agent front, though, the Bengals are most likely going to be losing some key veterans, and it's going to be interesting to see who they get to replace them. Some players that could be leaving are Reggie Nelson and Cedric Benson. Nelson might also be tempted to check out some teams that are in their division because he doesn't feel like he was treated well while he was with the Bengals. Look for the Bengals to most likely finish with 9 wins, 9-7, and out of the playoffs. The Atlanta Falcons, though, they've got a lot of problems, a lot of issues. They have to decide which players to bring back. They are $28 million under the salary cap, but have a 17 total UFAs, unrestricted free agents, that will be hitting the market if they cannot reach a new deal with the team. For now, it appears that the main priorities are Curtis Lofton and Brent Grimes, of course, followed by key decisions of John Abram and Harry Douglas, if they're going to re-sign them or not. The Falcons traded away their first-round draft pick for Julio Jones, the big wide receiver that they wanted last year, and it's adding up to an offseason that is going to lead the Falcons to taking a step backwards come next year, and they should be happy to finish better than 500 and outside of the playoffs in 2012. Now, the New York Football Giants, they won the Super Bowl. The New Jersey Giants definitely gave the Patriots fits all the way through the game, and of course ended up finishing the game as the better team, thus being crowned NFL champions. But how good are they really? Look at the Packers from last year, the Giants of this year. They were not that special of a team for majority of the regular season. I mean, the Giants this year, they were only 7-7, 500 team with 2 leagues left, and they had to win their last 2 games to make it. So what does that tell you about the team? Yeah, they can go on a hot run, and they get hot at the right time. They can make a run through the playoffs. But what happens if they are hot in the beginning of the season, and then they fizzle out? Teams are going to be gunning for them. There's a big bullseye on their back. And the prospect that the Giants could trade some of their veterans like Usiu Manyora or lose some of the depth in free agency like Mario Manningham, even though he said he wants to come back. As a result, I don't see the Giants having a fabulous season, repeating, especially because they may get 9 or 10 wins, and that's not enough, most likely will not be enough to win the NFC East, and so they're going to miss the playoffs. It's going to be interesting to see what actually happens and how they maneuver with these different pieces that they have for which they have to make key decisions about. The Oakland Raiders, it'll be interesting to see what happens, provided that Darren McFadden is healthy and Carson Palmer is going to have many weapons to turn to. They should finish with 10 wins but out of the playoffs. The Pittsburgh Steelers will be back in the playoffs next year, as well will be the Dallas Cowboys. And believe it or not, it won't shock me if the Buffalo Bills make the playoffs. Look at what happened. They currently have the longest streak of not making the playoffs. The Buffalo Bills do. But they started last year with a 5-2 record. They owned wins over both the Patriots and the Philadelphia Eagles. The Bills took the Giants deep into the fourth quarter, and they also shut out the Redskins. But then Ryan Fitzpatrick cracked 2 ribs against Washington, and he played hurt basically the rest of the season. And all the other injuries that they had started impacting the team, and they never quite recovered from what the injuries that they had affecting them. They fired their defensive coordinator. They promoted the assistant head coach to defensive coordinator. So now it's Dave Wanstead, who used to be the coach down in Miami. And they switched back to a 4-3 defense, and they already have 2 great tackles to form the heart of that defense in Kyle Williams and Marcel Darius. So expect to have the Bills healthy again next year. Sean Merriman coming back, Kyle Williams, Eric Wood, Fred Jackson, among others. And other injured veterans may not be brought back because of their extensive injury history, like Roscoe Parrish and Terrence McGee, for example. But overall, the Bills plan to bring back players, and they also own the 10th overall draft pick. So it's looking up for the Bills, most likely with 10 wins and making the playoffs as a wild card in the AFC in 2012. The 49ers are going to be back. The Eagles will finally understand when they mean a dream team. They'll stop dreaming and they'll actually make the playoffs next season, most likely with the number 1 place in the NFC East. I'll give them 10 to 11 wins because it does take time for a lot of new parts to gel. And a lot of the big decision is going to be how much money and time, if they want to at all, and if they are smart, they would, to give Deshaun Jackson. That is what's going to have to be. Or is he just more trouble than he's actually worth? The New England Patriots will be back in the playoffs next year. The San Diego Chargers will make the playoffs. The Detroit Lions will make the playoffs, as well as the Baltimore Ravens. The New Orleans Saints are my favorite my pick to right now to be in the Super Bowl simply because they went ahead and got a new defensive coordinator for the team, and this is in Steve Spagnuolo, and he essentially aided the New York Giants to win the Super Bowl the first go-around against the Patriots in 2007. The biggest issue for the Saints this past year is not the offense, but was the defense. Look for Steve Spagnuolo to be able to change Greg Williams, who was a former defensive coordinator for the Saints, who just he was like hell-bent to blitz on every single play. But look for Spagnuolo to be able to figure out when to allow the Saints to figure out for themselves when to go in all out and when to play back. The Saints they're going to be a solid team, and they are my favorite to make it to the Super Bowl next year out of the NFC. Out of the AFC, of course, my favorite is the Houston Texans because everything that they had going was fantastic until Matt Schaub went down. And they even had third-string quarterback T.J. Yates, and they know they have the confidence now in him that he is capable of stepping in a pinch if needed. So the Houston Texans are only going to get better between what they have now with the new defense, with their defensive coordinator Wade Phillips, Arian Foster, Andre Johnson, Ben Tate. I mean, you look at this team, the offense, the defense. Mario Williams is going to be back. So, hey, that's, of course, going to be the big question, actually, about Williams is, are they going to sign him or are they going to walk and hope that they get an extra draft pick for as compensation for him? Nonetheless, if he could play, you sign him to a big deal, or are you going to have to cut another player in order to make space for him to fit in? That's going to be a fun thing to watch for the Houston Texans because this team is on the up and up. And, of course, the favorites, even though the favorite that everybody should have to make the Super Bowl is the Green Bay Packers, unless, of course, they're beaten. Even though I picked the New Orleans Saints to make the Super Bowl, I believe it'll be the Packers and the Saints for the NFC title game with the Saints coming out victorious. But this team really, what's been going on, Mark McCarthy has his team on a stretch winning 22 out of 23 regular season games. And look, they're a really, really good team. So just all around the board, yes, they have questions with which free agents to bring back. Jermichael Finley, Ryan Grant, Matt Flynn. Most likely Flynn is going to be gone because he's going to want to become a starter somewhere. And yes, the Packers had a really good season last year. Expect them to have another solid campaign and most likely make it to the NFC title game. And that's really all I have for the NFL because I'm quite frankly sick and tired of talking about it. You want to talk about which quarterbacks who've played in the past 10 Super Bowls, where do they rank? No, I don't want to talk about where Peyton Manning ranks or Drew Brees or Eli Manning or Big Ben or Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady. I really don't care because we all know Tom Brady right now is the best. Yes, his team may have lost twice to Eli Manning, but he still won 3 Super Bowls in 4 years. He has the titles, he has the stats, he even has, of course, a supermodel wife like I mentioned earlier on in the show. And he has some recent issues of poor playoff performances, Baltimore, the Jets, and of course the Giants. But overall, he is still the best quarterback to have played in the Super Bowl in this generation. There is no real question about that. I think anybody who is going to argue that will have to really bring in the big guns. Moving on and just to touch on one thing in the NHL, the New York Rangers, my boys are still up on top. They are the number 1 team in this week's power rankings. The New York Rangers with 33 wins, of course, 2 behind the Detroit Red Wings in wins, but they're in the midst of a stretch. The Red Wings, the Rangers are, where they are playing 36 straight games without leaving their time zone. So look for them to capitalize on that, where they don't have to change their sleep patterns and they can wake up in the morning and go to work as per normal. When you have teams who can do that, it allows for them to just keep getting better, and they have the ability to make what is given to them and to really pad the stats, pad their spot in the standings, and make a run for the playoffs beginning today. The New York Rangers, they're very good, a very good blue-collar team, rather. Kind of reminds me of the Detroit Pistons back in 2004. This team has a lot of weapons. Everybody can score on any given line. Even the fighters can put the puck behind the goaltender and into the net. So you have to make sure, if you are playing the Rangers, that you have every single player accounted for and have accountability for them, because you snooze, you lose. But that's all for tonight. God bless and good night.